Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the village of South Perrott in Dorset. It's located in the north of the county, about 2 miles southeast of Crewkerne, which is over the border in Somerset. And we're going to be walking a roughly 3-mile circular route. We'll have a look at the village before heading southeast along the River Parrett Trail, hopefully finding the source of the river, and then wandering through the little village of Chedington before heading back past an old farm with some very interesting ancient history. Now I'm filming at the end of the summer. The sun is out. It looks as though it's going to be another glorious day. Perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car in the village, and what a lovely village it is too. It was mentioned in the Domesday Book, and it gets its name from the River Parrett that runs through the village. A little bit confusing. The actual village name is South Perrott, P-E-R-R-O-T-T, but the river name is River Parrett, P-A-R-R-E-T-T. Anyway, it's full of quaint 17th and 18th century stone cottages, and the Crewkerne to Dorchester road goes through the village. Well, before we kick off into the countryside, let's have a little look at a few things in the village itself, and we'll start off with a church that's just behind me here. It's the Church of St Mary's, and it's cruciform in shape. It's got a nave, west porch, north and south transepts and a central crossing, and they all date from the 13th century. The central tower was rebuilt in the 15th century, and a chapel was added to the south side of the church in the 16th century. Between 1907 and 1923, the chancel and south chapel were rebuilt. I think it's got 6 bells. Well, let's have a little peep inside. I have found some lights. So coming through the magnificent door, and there's the font on the left-hand side there. There's a beautiful stained glass window just there on the right. Just moving a little bit further down towards the chancel. Magnificent pulpit there. And then north and south transepts either side. And there's a beautiful stained glass window in what must be the south transept. Gorgeous. And then a terrific organ close to the altar. And then just above the altar there's a splendid window with a bit of stained glass aspect to it, but I love this one on the left-hand side. A couple of pictures, one of Christ on the cross, and presumably the other one's the Last Supper. Well, just to the south of the church and fields in front of me here, you can make out a few indentations and ditches. And it's actually the location of what was once Mohun Castle. A 1903 map and a current Ordnance Survey map mentions a site of Mohun Castle. And it probably was just a large moated manor house here that was destroyed around the 17th century. There was still a building called Porter's Lodge to the northwest of the site, recorded in 1680, but nothing of that is left now. But the earthworks still survive, and that evidence is a moated enclosure of about 3/4 of an acre, and there are 2 more outer enclosures. And they reckon that stone from the building here was used to build other houses later on in the village. And over there's the old rectory, an early 19th century building, but it does include a stone panel which has got 1684 on it, which relates to a previous building. Now that little area there by the telephone box, if you look at an old 1903 map, there was an old animal pound here where they would have kept stray animals until they were reacquainted with their owners. You can see it's now a lay-by. And there's the Parrott Hotel, recently changed its name from the Coach and Horses Inn. It was indeed an old coaching inn. It's got a very interesting history. I'll let you look it up. Now this fascinating house here is called the Baker's Arms. It dates back to, well, between 1672 and 1680, when it was 2 cottages. And in the second half of the 1700s, another dwelling was attached east of the original pair. By 1938, the western of the 2 original cottages was a ruin and the eastern one only partly habitable, so the whole property was effectively rebuilt, and half of the newer cottage was used as a pub with the original entrance on the road, but that was blocked off in the early 1950s. It remained a pub until 1957, when it closed and became a residential house. There are 3 small cottages behind, 2 of which I think are now holiday lets. And goodness me, are those grapes growing along the wall outside? I think they are. Well, this is the River Parrett, which flows through the village. We'll be seeing a lot more of this river later on in the walk. Amazing to think that it eventually flows out to sea at Sturt Point and the Bristol Channel. Oh, what a beautiful thatched house, riverside. And I love the thatched dog on top of the roof. Splendid. Okay, well, we're now going to head out into the countryside and we're going to pick up the River Parrett Trail. It's a 50-mile long distance path that starts at the source of the river. We may see that, we'll certainly get close to it. And the trail basically follows the course of the river. I say, although the trail's 50 miles long, the river itself I think is only 37 miles long. Haha, that's the signpost I was looking for. Chedington, 1¼ miles. And this is the River Parrett. Now it looks as though the footpath goes along the right-hand side of the bank there. I hope so, otherwise we're going to get our feet wet. Well, as you can see, this is quite a challenging footpath. It may well be easier if I had Wellington boots. Perhaps it would have been easier going along the river. It's got like a gravelly bed to it. What a lovely little section of the river there, just underneath the canopy of all these trees, but the sunlight peeping through. We're very, very high up the course of the river, so it's not going to be anything substantial at this stage, but looking at the way the banks are fairly deep, I wonder if it does get a bit of a torrent in the winter. I don't know. Good grief. Well, it looks as though it flattens out a bit when we get down there. I think the trick is follow Logan. Well, that was fun. A challenging footpath. So there's the river here, but it looks as though we've got a little, looks like a sunken track to follow. It looks as though it might be a little bit easier on the legs. Well, it's going to be quite a hot day today. Logan thought he'd just check out the river for dog dip reference purposes. Yeah, I think that meets with his approval. Good boy. South Perrott Reservoir. Now interesting, if you look on a 1903 map and indeed a 1958 map, it looks as though there was a big lake or fish pond here, but it looks as though it's all been sort of filled in. And I wonder whether this has all happened fairly recently. I don't know, I might be talking absolute rubbish and I might be reading the current map incorrectly. Well, what an enchanting area this is. A little bit of open land and then apple trees and benches and little picnic tables for people to come and sit and relax on. Quite delightful. Just an update on the route. We're still very much on the river trail, so we've come along the path. At some stage we must have crossed the river because here we well, we cross it again to keep on the south side, and I don't know if you might not be able to see it through there, but it's in a gully through there, so looks like we're going to keep on the south side of the river up to its source now. Now, I'm not 100% sure if he's eating the blackberries or that sticky weed which dogs love. Probably a bit of both. Do you want me to help you with the blackberries, fella? Oh, some beautiful ones up here. Look at this. Yeah. You want me to get it for you? You're getting lazy now. Here we go. Again, they're not big, but they're juicy. Well, I'll tell you, it's quite glorious now, the weather. Continuing to head eastwards, and well, the river is just down, and it's almost like a ditch now. We're very, very close to its source, not far to go. Wow, a little pit stop just to look back to the west, taking some of the views. The haze is just beginning to lift now. So the trail we've been following sort of along the side of the field there. We had to go through a field of cows, but they were fine. And then through this field here, and the river is just through those trees. Ah, this is a lovely section of the walk, heading up through a meadow. Now, as far as the source of the river is concerned, well, you can choose from a number of springs in this area. I think the bulk of them are sort of in those trees and beyond in private land, so we're not going to see an actual source as such. But even here in front of me, you can see where there's almost like a little valley and sort of a damp area right at the bottom. That's probably part of the system that feeds the river. I don't know. Another pit stop to catch my breath. We've been having a little uphill bit. Isn't that quite stunning? And you can see the path that we've been following uphill. And I had to keep Logan on a lead because of livestock being in the fields there. Well, we've made it to the top of a little ridge. And this is the start of the River Parrett Trail. Although I think technically it probably starts at the pub just down the road, the Wynyards Gap. We will visit that pub at the end of the video, but we'll get back to the village first and then drive round. We need to check out the pub, obviously, for research purposes for the video. But we're now at a place called Chedington with a bit of exploring to do. I should say, I apologise if at any stage during this video I get my parrots and parrots mixed up. We're just coming into Chedington, and there's Chedington Lodge. Beautiful. Now here's the entrance to Chedington Court. I don't think we're going to be able to see the actual building, but let me tell you a bit about it anyway. There's been a house of some description here as far back as 1285, but the present building dates from 1840. It was built in Jacobean style and remodelled in 1894. The grounds and parkland cover at least 60 acres. By the early 1980s, it was a hotel, and a 9-hole golf course was opened on land to the north of here in 1991 that was later expanded to 18 holes. The hotel was sold in 1997, and I think the golf course closed in 2010. So I believe the house is now a wedding venue, and there's a big equestrian centre to the west at Lower Chapel Farm that is part of the estate enterprise. Just along from Chedington Court is the manor farm. Hopefully you can see it. So the sun is in the wrong place today. It's origins to the 16th century and altered in the 17th century. I see there's a plaque above the porch that says 1634. Now, just behind that wall, if you look on a 1903 map, it says St James Church site of, and I think it's well, in what's now part of the garden of Chedington Court. What a cute little door, almost designed for pixies, or even a whippet. And just through there, I can just about make out the current St James Church, built between 1840 and 1841. It became redundant in 1980 and is now a private dwelling. Originally it comprised a nave, chancel, south porch and south vestry, and it had a bellcote with a single bell, although it looks as though the bell's long gone now. Well, Chedington's a very small village. It wasn't mentioned in the Domesday Book. The first record of it was in 1194, and it means farm of a man called Ched. And basically it's an estate village that grew up around Chedington Court. What a lovely, well-preserved water pump there, with the flowers in front of it in a trough. What a gorgeous little street with cottages and roses outside. Quite stunning in the sunshine today as well. Oh gosh, look at that. It's one of those old AA signs. I wonder how old that is. And we're only 135.5 miles from London. Oh, another beautiful thatched building. Lovely wooden door there. Really does look quite stunning with all the foliage clinging to the outside. Now this is the footpath that I was looking for that takes us out of the village just before a place called P Mead, and we want to head in this direction. I'm now heading westwards along a footpath by the side of a field, and well, the views over to the west, well, they're just so breathtaking. You just have to keep stopping from time to time just to take it all in. Well, this is where the footpath comes out onto a little road called Chedington Lane, I think. So we need to follow that and then look out for another little road called Picket Lane, which will take us back to the village. So a little bit of road work, but it doesn't look as though it's too busy. I'm heading back down Picket Lane, back towards the village. Where I am now, Picket Farm, the area of land was involved in an episode of Channel 4's Time Team series back in 2005. I believe it was called The Puzzle of Pickett's Farm. And Tony Robinson said at the end of the programme, quote, "It produced the biggest range of finds over history in an individual dig," quote. Apparently they discovered a late Neolithic round enclosure dating back some 5,000 years ago, and they also discovered early Bronze Age pottery and Roman coins. So they really did find artefacts that covered a wide range of timescales. Do check it out on YouTube, the video's still there. And there is the old Pickett farmhouse. So I wonder how old that is. Some beautiful outlines, perhaps a window on the wall there in the past. Well, this is a good spot to show you where we've been. So, you know, originally we made our way up from the village along the river trail, uphill all the way to Chedington, and then we made our way a footpath along the side of those trees before finally hitting the road and back to Pickett Lane. One final look before we drop back down into the village. England's green and pleasant land. Well, we're now back at South Perrott, so I just need to get into the car, brief journey, check out that pub. And here we are at the Wynyards Gap Inn. It's a 17th century and it's always been a pub. It's had a number of names over the years, including the Three Horseshoes. The present name relates to Captain Wynyard, who blasted his way through the area in order to move heavy artillery, hence Wynyards Gap. That's according to the pub website anyway. There is a cutting through the hill here that was one of the main routes in and out of Dorset. Indeed, the Monarch's Way, that long distance path, passes by here, and that represents what the escape route of Charles II after his defeat at the Battle of Worcester in 1651. And it became part of the Dorset backdrop for character statements featured in a series of trials at the Old Bailey in 1753. But I'll let you look it up. Well, just before I go in for my well-earned pint, there's something I want to show you very close to the pub, so we'll have a look at that first. Well, just close to the pub, Wynyards Gap, is a 16-acre area of woodland that was given over in 1949 as a memorial to the men of the 43rd Wessex Division who died in the Second World War. And in front of me here at the top of the hill is a terrific memorial. It's actually a replica of a memorial erected on the Hill Point 112 near Caen in France. It was the site of the first major battle that the 43rd Wessex Division took part in July 1944. And what a beautiful spot it is too, up here on the hill with a bench, and the views are incredible, looking out over to countryside where of course those men would originally have come from. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk here at the Wynyards Gap with a pint of otter ale. Oh, lovely. And our bowl of chips is on its way, and Logan's testing out his new special coat for cooling down whippets. We hope you enjoyed the walk today. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. We've had a super walk today. I mean, the weather has been quite glorious once again. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio.